Imagine driving down an empty road in the dead of night, when out of nowhere, a figure steps into your path. What do? I was coming back from my friend's house, driving down a long stretch of deserted highway. It was almost 2 a.m., and the road ahead was just dark. The kind of dark that swallows everything, with only my headlights piercing through. I was exhausted. I just wanted to get home. But then, out of nowhere, I saw something, a shadow standing in the middle of the road. I slammed on the brakes so hard that my car screeched to a stop, tires burning against the asphalt. My heart pounded in my chest as I squinted through the windshield. It was a person, no, more like a figure. It was too still, too silent. It didn't move, didn't react to the sound of my brakes or the bright lights blinding it. Just stood there. I honked, hoping they'd move, but they didn't. The only thing between me and the shadow was about 10 feet of road. Then the figure turned, slowly. I couldn't see a face, just the shape of someone or something looking back at me. My hands were shaking. Should I drive around them? Call for help? But before I could make a decision, the figure stepped off the road, disappearing into the trees. I exhaled, relieved, and sped off. But just as I passed the spot where the figure had stood, I felt it, a cold, heavy presence inside my car. In my rearview mirror, I saw it. That same shadow was sitting in the back seat, staring right at me. I swerved off the road, jumping out of the car, but there was no one in the back seat. No shadow, nothing. But I knew somehow that it wasn't gone. To this day, I can't drive at night without checking my rearview mirror, because I know it's still there, waiting. You've heard of hitchhikers, but have you ever picked up someone who wasn't really there? I was on my way home after a long day, cruising down a winding mountain road. It was late, past midnight, and I hadn't seen another car for miles. Just the trees whipping by on either side, illuminated by my headlights. That's when I saw her. A woman standing by the side of the road, her thumb out, looking for a ride. Her clothes were dirty, hair matted, and she looked desperate. I hesitated for a moment. Who hitchhikes out here this late? But something in me told me to stop, so I pulled over. She climbed in without a word. I tried to make small talk, asking if she was okay, where she was headed. All she said was, "Just up the road. Not far." Her voice was barely a whisper, like she was struggling to speak. We drove in silence for a while, and I couldn't shake this strange feeling, like the air around us had gotten heavier. When I glanced at her, her face was blank, emotionless, staring straight ahead. But it wasn't her silence that bothered me. It was her hands. They were dirty, covered in what looked like dried mud, or blood. Finally, I saw a turnoff up ahead and asked, "Is this where you need to go?" No response. I turned to look at her, and she was gone. The seat was empty. The door hadn't opened, the car hadn't stopped, and yet she had just vanished. My heart pounded as I pulled over, but there was no trace of her. Nothing. It was like she was never there. When I got home, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. I looked up reports from that area and my blood ran cold. Years ago, a woman had been killed while hitchhiking on that very road. Some say she still looks for a ride, but never reaches her destination. Have you ever been followed, but when you look back, there's no one there? It started like any other night. I was driving home after a late shift, taking the back roads like I always did. The night was pitch black, not a single car around. It was just me and the sound of my engine humming down the road. Suddenly, my headlights caught something moving on the side of the road, a glimpse of something darting into the woods. It was quick, almost too fast to see, but I shrugged it off. Maybe a deer or some other animal. I kept driving. But a few minutes later, I saw it again. This time, it crossed the road just ahead of me. A dark figure moving unnaturally fast. I hit the gas, trying to shake the uneasy feeling building inside me. That's when I noticed the headlights in my rearview mirror. A car, or at least I thought it was, far behind, but closing in fast. Too fast. I pushed the pedal down harder, my car flying down the empty road. But the lights, they were getting closer, almost blindingly bright. And then, just as quickly as they appeared, they were gone. No screech of tires, no car passing me, nothing. I slammed on my brakes and pulled over, trying to calm my racing heart. I sat there for a moment, scanning the darkness around me. There was no car, no sound. But then, there was a knock on my window. I jumped, but when I looked, no one was there. I sped home that night, not daring to look back. I don't know what followed me, but every now and then, when I'm on that road alone, I still see those headlights in my mirror, and they're always getting closer.